welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. We bring you the right information to empower you, the entrepreneur. Tonight on the show, to the influencer conversations. First up is with Zeven. On the other side of a short break, we'll be in conversation with Soulful. Zeven is a multi-dimensional sporting and active lifestyle brand based in Bengaluru, and it's one of India's only brands to have made its way into the Wimbledon and US Open. We caught up with its co-founder and managing director, Hemchandra Javeri, to really understand more about the brand, to understand what advice he may have for other entrepreneurs who might be interested in this space. Take a listen. Hemchandra, thanks very much for speaking with us here on the show. Let's start by talking about the brand Zeven. It's in a very unique position. I understand you are the official ICC apparel manufacturer. That obviously gives you, a much larger footprint. That gives you a very unique position. So talk to us about the brand. Talk to us about the company. You're just about 3 years old. So in the space of these 3 years, you've managed to achieve this distinction. What's that been like?
We started Zeven with the belief that in India there are roughly 200 million people in the Indian middle class. There is, especially in the last 5 years, a huge momentum towards sports and fitness. But there is no product that suits the Indian consumer and doesn't suit the Indian application of sport and fitness in that relevant niche. So we decided that we need to build a brand with world-class quality, India prices, for product made and designed for India. And that is the simple philosophy of Zeven. We've had an exciting journey, we have had an amazing journey so far. And where we are positioned today, we think Zeven can really transform the way sports products, footwear, apparel, accessories, can be made more affordable to the average Indian. And I'm very proud to say that in the last 2 years, we've sold lakhs of pieces of product. All our product quality ratings are very high. Consumer appreciation of product quality on footwear and apparel is very high. So the Zeven strategy is very simple. Offer world-class quality at India prices for product made for India, for Indians. We have tailor-made our product in footwear and apparel to suit the unique requirements of the Indian consumer.
Mahesh Bhupati is your co-founder. How has that association helped? What sort of visibility perhaps has having someone like Mahesh Bhupati associated with your brand brought to you as a company?
Well, I think almost all the credit for starting Zeven must go to Mahesh Bhupati. He and his family are known to me for years. He was very clear in his mind many years ago that, hey, we need to start a brand. There is an opportunity for such a brand. Indians aspire to global brands, but are also very keen to have a homegrown Indian brand with an Indian soul. And he kept pushing me. I was preoccupied for a long time with our PE fund. But finally, a few years ago, we decided to take the plunge. And he's been very active on a day-to-day basis. Unlike many of the other sports stars who only give their name or are more for the endorsement side, Mahesh has been very active in critical elements of the business, especially on the marketing side, on sports marketing, on constructing and negotiating partnerships and deals with teams, sports asset, athletes, and so on and so forth. And most importantly, he gives us an athlete's view of our product. So a lot of our product is tested out with him. He gives us feedback, we improve on it. And that has allowed us to make really the best product in the business.
Are there a lot of other players in the space that you're in? What advice would you have for other entrepreneurs who are perhaps looking at this space, are interested in, sort of entering the space? What would you advise for them to do? And also, we were talking about having someone like a Mahesh Bhupati associated with your brand. What's the importance of brand building when it comes to your specific industry segment?
For somebody who wants to start a sports brand, I would recommend think, think and think. It's become a big boys game. It calls for substantial resources. It calls for a lot of money, time, effort, research. It's taken time, and it will take a lot of time because we want to build a genuine performance brand with a large lifestyle offering. So it needs patience, and patience is also translated into money. So I would say for somebody who wants to enter such a field, think, resource yourself well. And there are two resources that matter. One is money and one is people. Many of our competitors have not had a stable team. Our team has been stable from the time we started. And that is why our team has been able to achieve what we've done so far. It's very difficult to find the right team and to find the right investors who support you in this journey. Because as we have realized, there is a lot of trial and error. You will make mistakes. And if you don't have the right resources to make those mistakes, you can very quickly be out of business.
Branding is one part of the business. The other equally crucial part of the business, or more crucial if I can call it that, of course, is fundraising. Have you raised funds? How important is it? How easy or difficult has it been in your industry to be able to kind of raise the funds that you've required?
At the moment, we're not looking to raise funds. We've been fortunate with a great set of investors, shareholders and board. However, what has happened is that as we are going through this journey, there are more and more opportunities that are emerging for us at Zeven. And therefore, we are talking to a handful of strategic investors, high quality funds and global investors. So yes, we would like to keep engaged with them. We are looking for the right kind of people to join us in this journey in terms of investors and shareholders. And therefore, for the right person, of course, our doors are always open.
Cricket, of course, is the currency that sells here in India. But what other sports do you think perhaps have a great market when it comes to sports apparel? Would you look at any other such brands? Who do you think maybe is your competitor perhaps here in India?
We have created specialty product for cricket, for football, for tennis, and then of course we have a wide range in fitness, which is running, for the gym, even for walking. We think there is an opportunity for great walking shoes in India. So we have created a very powerful range of product across these categories, and the good news is that many athletes are using our product or have used it in the past and are very satisfied with it. So that gives us clarity that our product engine is able to consistently create world-class product. And we have been researching the market continuously because we are seeing that the competitors, both international and Indian, have not really met the needs of the Indian consumer. The international brands, for them India is too small a market, or it's a little complex for them and they don't want to try and create product for India. So as a consequence, the international brands have not done well. Some have exited, some have gotten repositioned and are therefore different brands altogether, and some have started cutting back. So as a consequence, the international brands, who are the only ones who could possibly offer world-class quality, are really not meeting the Indian consumer needs. And then you look at the Indian brands at the bottom end, they're trying to sell mainly on price. Now the Indian consumer is not stupid, and he or she does not mind spending money for the right product. So what are they looking for? They are looking for the right value-price equation, and that's what we believe we have been able to crack. The domestic brands have not created good product. If you look at the product quality, you could wear it a couple of times or 3 or 4 times and it'll collapse, or it'll break, or it'll in a wash the color will go away, or it'll shrink. That is pathetic because the Indian consumer will not accept that and has not done that in the past. And likewise, they have not built a brand which the Indian consumer feels proud to wear. So as a combination of these two, I would say, disasters, the domestic brands have not been able to take off, or are, I would say, struggling at very low levels of business.
Hemchandra, it's been great talking to you, but I just have one last question before we let you go, and that's really in terms of your expansion plans, if any, that you can leave us with.
We're already in about 500 or 600 points of sale across India. We are in all the marketplaces. We are creating new exclusive outlets almost every month. And we are expanding through specialty sports channels. We are expanding through our distributors and other very, very important channel partners. We have got fantastic channel partners. So we would like to expand channels, and we are also simultaneously expanding the product range. We have a fantastic team that has created product consistently. And we are expanding our product range so that we have more and more offerings, both on the performance side or on pitch as we call it, and the casual or the lifestyle side. We have a range which is growing almost every month. So we are expanding on all these dimensions. And around Diwali, we will start advertising as well. If all goes well, we'll do 40 to 50 crores sales this year.
Hemchandra, thanks very much for speaking with us here on the show. Time for a break. What is Soulful up to? A deep dive into that company on the other side. Just stay tuned. You're back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight our second influencer conversation is with Soulful. The breakfast cereal industry in India is growing at a whopping 28% and is expected to touch nearly 4,000 crores by 2020. That's up from just 2,800 crores that it's at right now. What is helping it break into this market and maintain a difference, and what is helping it serve nutritious breakfast and build a brand for itself? That's the story of Soulful. We caught up with the company to understand insights into the industry, into the breakfast market, and into the company. Take a listen. Prashant, thanks very much for speaking with us here in this interview. My first question for you tonight is for you to talk to our viewers about the journey behind Soulful, what the brand is about.
I hail from an agriculture background, a family of farmers and scientists. And my parents run a distribution and warehousing firm, and so really always been born, brought up in the entire consumer space. Always had this passion of how do we bring the entire consumer side and how do we have bring the goodness of agriculture into the same. Moved on to the US where I did my MBA, and post that was in the supermarkets industry. And that is when I actually saw the birth of grains such as quinoa and other interesting spaces that really evolved in the Western market. The growth of quinoa was a very interesting thing, a humble grain from Peru, which just made a large global landscape shift. Really got me to think India has so much of a history, very similar in a lot of its ways to South America, and why could we not do this with India's ancient grains? The name Soulful itself means a lot in terms of what we deliver to the consumers. Yes, it is about nutrition, but it's not just food that's going to be filling your tummy, but also something that fills up your soul. These grains are all about not just being goodness of delivery of nutrition to you, but it's also nutrition that is there to the entire society. In other words, it uses 1/10 the amount of water compared to any other grain. Very little inputs that is required for the farmer and delivers great nutrition to the consumer. So in all words, it's not just a superfood, but it's actually a smart food. And really, this is where the entire space of Soulful really operated on.
Yours is an interesting product and an interesting option when it comes to healthy packaged food space, especially because this market, the snacking market that is largely dominated by MNCs who have, quick off the shelf kind of products. What's that experience been like? Trying to create that market, trying to create that brand, as well as, trying to create that space really for healthy alternatives.
So the market is a tough place. But the market is a tough place for any product. It could be an apparel, it could be anything in fashion, it could be anything in food. I think the distinctiveness of what the brand is and what is it that you are actually offering to the consumer, I think was what was very, very clear that we had to bring. So in our Ragi Bites range, when we bring goodness of these grains into the child, what we actually are offering to the mother is, how do I get ragi, dal to a child who's living in a world, it's all around coolness. And what is that value that we're able to bring? So we have an internal joke where, it's ragi outside and a dollop of chocolate inside in our Ragi Bites. The mother actually thinks, she's actually delivering a lot of goodness to the child. And the child actually feels that, I'm actually having a piece of chocolate, and my mother really doesn't understand it. And how do you create that kind of a beautiful space is something that we all love to do.
So while the healthy eating market is changing here in India, more and more people are buying into healthier eating and healthier snacking options. The question then is, how are you differentiating yourselves from your peers?
Like I was mentioning, our entire focus is going to be on India's ancient grains and how do we make them relevant. I think the market is very, very large in terms of the number of spaces that people can occupy. But as entrepreneurs and very focused, sharp companies, we focus on our core, and our core is about bringing nutrition of these great grains and bringing them together. So what we brought together is a fun, interesting product which brought the goodness of ragi, the power of dal, at the end of the day, very Indian context, but in a consumer that's rapidly developing in the external world. And I think those are things that becomes very, very difficult for larger players to really focus on. And so our focus has been on bringing goodness of India's agriculture in a very, very distinctive fashion.
We like to ask the influencers who join us here on the show about what advice they would perhaps have for their colleagues, for their peers about their industry segment. So for someone who's looking at this industry and saying the healthy food market, the healthy snacking market is definitely growing, they would perhaps like to look at the space. What is your advice for them?
The market is obviously healthy food market, health and wellness is a growing segment. Lines are pretty blurred when it comes to a lot of this. But I think the one thing that really is important is patience, persistence, and the passion. I think these are the three things that's very, very key and very important. And it's also important to understand is not to get intimidated by the very large companies which are focused on driving a larger agenda. At the end of the day, there is a David and Goliath game. But there's always the David who wins because he finds his interesting, nice ways of how to actually play out as life goes by. So I think that's the important thing. Don't get intimidated. Go on that passion journey. Drive what you're actually out there for do.
Do you think that increased demand when it comes to healthier food alternatives then can sort of give rise to more demand for traditional crops like ragi, etc., being grown by farmers? Do you think that section really of the produce which is being grown by farmers, that perhaps that can be revived?
Definitely, and I think that is the important part. So if you actually speak to people in the agriculture space, the issue that really happened with these millets, I mean, these used to be a part of our India staples, be it ragi, be it jowar, be it bajra. What happened was India as a country moved from required at the particular point hunger satisfaction. We had to alleviate poverty. We had to alleviate a lot of things, which was rightfully so at that particular point. Today, the space is really around move to nutritional satisfaction. So the shift that's happened is hunger satisfaction to nutritional satisfaction. And during that particular space that's there, we have actually made these products relevant to the consumers. And when I say making them relevant, it is not enough just to take ragi or nachni or take foxtail millet or kangani and make a flour and say, go figure what to do with it. The point is to make them relevant. When we keep saying make it relevant, is where is it in the day of the life of a consumer? The minute you're able to find that, there is suddenly a piece of acceptance. When there is acceptance, there is consumption. When there's consumption, there's actually a demand for these grains. So what happens indirectly is, rather than actually focusing and driving the farmers to actually grow something that's not required, the focus for companies such as ours is at Soulful is to really just build the demand for these kind of ancient grains, where the farmers are also able to sell the produce and not have them just sit in warehouses. We've seen over the last few years the rampant consumption increase which has happened, because of which consumption of these grains have also increased at an all India level. At the same time, there is also an offtake that's there from the farmers' field. So which is a main key piece, because our role is to ensure that these grains don't die in history, but actually stand tall in history and make it to the global space.
When you're talking about healthy food alternatives, correct me if I'm wrong, but one would presume that the biggest challenge, of course, is when it comes to the mindset change. How are you encouraging more people? How do you get more people to think differently about the options available when it comes to healthier snacking, and get their buy-in and convert them into consumers?
So, as much as Indians love the concept of health, Western world, they're okay to eat something like a cardboard if it's healthy. Indians are never going to give up that, and I think that's rightfully so, because that's the difference between food and pharma. If I really wanted to eat something that was just healthy and didn't taste well, I'd rather have a tablet of something, right? But at the end of the day, it is food. I mean, it is Ghar Ka Khana. So the whole sport is, how do you then provide food that's healthy at the same time, not forgetting that taste is not a compromise. Now, ragi, as a lot of people have an issue, wouldn't see it, they feel it is, it's not as tasty. So our role as a brand is to ensure that we bring the goodness of these grains, but we also ensure that we do not compromise on the taste. So we use ingredients such as cocoa, which masks ragi and just marry very well, brings the good amount of stuff without compromising on nutrition. We replace sugar, which every Indian needs, either sweet or a salt or something spicy. What do? We kind of replace sugar and bring in the goodness of jaggery. So at the same time, so how do you bring those balances together? And that's where really the science part of our brand really starts kicking in.
All right, Prashant, one last question. Now, what's next for you? Maybe in the next couple of years, what's looking interesting for you at Soulful that you can leave our viewers with?
Like I said, the David and Goliath game that's there, definitely want to create ourselves into a mainstream FMCG space without losing the core principles of what Soulful is built on honesty, built on what we stand in terms of delivering nutrition, convenience, and being natural and that entire space. At the end of the day, it is about making a dent and going across categories with this entire umbrella of India's ancient grains.
Prashant, thanks very much for speaking with us here on the show. All right, that's our show tonight. If you want to be featured here on the show, like Zeven or Soulful, here's how you get in touch. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. On Twitter, reach out to me personally at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now, which is our official Twitter handle. You can also reach us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.